What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. We are talking forecast and prediction for episode 3 of Loki season 2. Now, I don't know about you guys. Episode 2 felt a little lackluster to me, but I think there's a reason for it, and we're going to get into it. Before we do that, please like and subscribe to the channel. We are well on our way to 200 subscribers, but we need your help to do it. Thank you guys for joining the conversation. Tell us what you guys think in the comments, and let's get right to it. Now, normally, mid-season, episodes 3, 4, maybe 5, there tends to be some kind of filler episode, something that gives you some backstory or gets your characters from what's going on to like the final showdown, things like that. Episode 2 had that feel to it. It had a little bit of world building, but it kind of jumped right from the big problem that they had in episode 1 to some smaller elements that, from a writing standpoint, I actually felt like they were creating a baseline. This is my theory, creating a baseline to go back and revisit this era, this world where they find Hunter X5, where they find Zaniac. It felt like they were showing you this reality, this place, and then they're going to go back and revisit it because there's something else going on there. To where you revisit places that you've already seen in the episode, but with another twist, similar to Avengers Endgame, where they revisited all the different Avengers battles and things like that. So, you didn't know it at the time, but you're seeing it from another perspective, those types of things. So some of our predictions here, some of our forecast elements are similar to last week, but with a little bit of a twist because we have a little more clarity. And I'm going to roll with this theory moving on out. If you look back at last week's episode, pretty well went 7 for 7, with the exception of seeing Renslayer. They made some comments about where she might be, what's going on, that she's there, and I think they're building up towards some of that as well. So 6 for 7, but prediction-wise, we're still kind of tracking the right direction. So let's get into it. 100% here, you need to pay attention to the multiversal rules and visuals. They're giving you a lot of that with the temporal loom. Any scene with OB, he tends to give a lot of information about that. Whenever they show the years and the dates, they're telling you it's an alternate timeline. It's a branch timeline. I think they're going to start using those explanations more because right now it says branch timeline, which means they're still using the sacred timeline as your baseline. What that looks like whenever things completely go off the rails, and we firmly establish this is the reality we live in now, this is the multiverse. Maybe this series is where we start numbering the realities. Who knows? But a lot of these visuals, these multiversal cues, Marvel is explaining to you, and Michael Waldron and all these other people that are writing these, the showrunners and stuff, they're explaining and showing you this in very bite-sized ways. Now, in the movies, you get these big visuals and these big scenes and settings, and you kind of get to theorize on your own. But the TV shows are places where they can get into that nitty-gritty detail, and that's what you're getting. So pay attention to those things because it helps you explain some things, and it'll make the movies a lot more interesting because you know these things, whether they're going on concurrently or whether the elements that you've seen that they've explained are more readily recognizable in a movie. We got a hurricane front, a storm front coming here with Ravonna Renslayer. I think 80% certainty we see her in this next episode because they've talked about her. She's on the horizon. She's out there somewhere. Now, it would be really cool to wait right until the end of the series and then throw her into it. But I think if they do that, she's more of a big bad than I think they want her to be. I think this is all focusing on Kang right from the first shot of episode 1. And I think she is a piece in that, but I think she's going to pop up somewhere here in the middle. I think Loki and Mobius and some of they're going to have to find her in addition to some of the other things that are going on to see what's going on, to figure out what the end game is here, what the plan is. Along those same lines, and especially with my theory here, I think the writers and the showrunners here, they're messing with your head when it comes to the timeline. We've gone back in time. We've gone to the future. We've gone to alternate branches. We've gone through the sacred timeline. We've seen things that have already happened. We've seen things that haven't happened yet, and there's characters that we don't know who it is or where they're coming from. All of that happened in the first 2 episodes. We've destroyed, we've simultaneously unleashed the multiverse and done branches over the red line, and then destroyed them all in one fell swoop, all within the first 2 episodes. And so I think this idea that there's a lot of manipulation of time going on here and things going back and forth, right down to the fact that Sylvie spends the last couple of seconds of this past episode staring at and contemplating He Who Remains tempad in her hands outside the McDonald's. I think there's a lot more at play there, and what that object is able to do and what she does with it are going to play a big role moving forward. I think it's a lot of foreshadowing, and I think you need to be on your toes, particularly here and with all these multiversal rules. These things kind of go hand in hand, and we'll get to some more Sylvie conversation here in a minute. I'm keeping this one here. I still think that Loki and Mobius are going to seek out a Kang, but I think kind of the road to getting there means OB has told them they need to go find Miss Minutes, because they think Kang is dead. They think He Who Remains is dead. They know that there are variants out there of Kang, but the one that created the TVA that can get them into the blast doors, that guy's gone. And so finding Miss Minutes is something that they need to do. We've already gotten a hint of that from some of the trailers in the form of a giant black and white Miss Minutes. And it looked like it took place in the same era or the same space where Loki and Mobius encountered Hunter X5 in the last episode, which is why I think that they're messing with time, that this last episode was really a setup and a filler for something else that's going to go on there either concurrently or later on that they kind of missed the first time around, or they have to go back to that space. And so I think they're gonna go looking for Miss Minutes, but ultimately they're going to encounter a Kang and go looking for a Kang. I think the foreshadowing at the end of the last episode, Sylvie's going to get into some hot water here because I think she's going to go it alone. She made clear that she doesn't want anything to do with Loki, TVA, or Mobius, but she spends the last couple of seconds of the last episode sitting on the hood of her car outside McDonald's, contemplating what's going on in her next moves while looking at He Who Remains tempad. And I think she's going to make some moves on her own as to what happens next, or maybe to complete the work, that it's not quite done, that she has to finish it, or maybe contemplating what she's done. Either way, I think she gets in hot water here, and she either pops back up with Loki, or she ends up being the one that in episode 1 prunes Loki from behind, and we didn't know who that was. I tend to think it is Loki himself or Sylvie that did that, coming back and reliving those moments to make it happen. Similar to the way that He Who Remains says, I paved the road at the end of last season, that Sylvie is going to take on part of that mantle in terms of, well, if he did it, I can do it too. So in that regard, especially when it comes to the way that season 1 ended, I think we need to start being a little cautious of OB. And I'll tell you why. Not because I think he's a villain, but there are a lot of theories swirling out there, and I tend to believe them too, especially after last episode. OB, they talk about OB's the one that wrote the handbook, and he's kind of a celebrity among certain TVA members like Casey, but OB seems to not have a memory of certain people. But also there were comments in episode 1 that it doesn't seem like OB may have had his memory wiped the same way that everybody else did. So he knows things, but he doesn't know things. And his memory and his grasp on reality at best is different than everybody else's in the TVA. Now, what that means and how he functions is anybody's guess, but I think I would not be surprised if there's some twists and turns to be had here with OB, where he is not who you think he is, or he plays a more integral role than the integral role you think he already plays. I think we need to watch for those hints. Now, I've said this before. I will say this again, and it will be my final slide every single time until the end of the series. This is not going to end well. The multiverse has to burst open. We're going through Avengers, the multiverse saga. This has to get worse. This cannot get better. We're leading towards incursions. We're leading towards multiversal war. That means that this stuff doesn't get better. There may be a solution that says, okay, we can take a breath for a second, but things are not okay, and they can't possibly end okay because the sacred timeline can't be protected anymore. The multiverse has to exist. They can always do something ridiculous like jump us from the sacred timeline to all these other multiverses and just have people scattered to the wind, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think the multiverse blowing up and leading towards this multiversal war and then circling back around to the sacred timeline way down the road with Avengers Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars and things like that is where they're headed. Because of that, this is not going to end well. Some bad things have to happen, and I think no matter what happens here, this season is more about getting answers and explaining things than it is about solving some big problem. My theory here, 100% certain, they're not going to solve this problem. They're going to have to create some other problems and fix those while they're watching the world and the multiverse unravel. So, curious what you guys think about these things. There's a lot of things to talk about, but I really think this series is focused on confrontations with Loki, Kang, and the multiverse moving forward, and those explosions. The TVA is fractured. There's lots of different rogue elements out there, and those elements are always going to come together. You know, season 1 was all about the sacred timeline fracturing into all these other timelines, and this season looks to be, we're going to take all this multiversal stuff going on and siphon it down to one interconnected storyline. Even though the timeline is fractured, we're going to take all this multiversal stuff and give you one story. And they've given you visuals of those things when they're talking about the multiverse and the temporal loom and all that kind of stuff. But I want to know what you guys think. I want your theories. I want your ideas. Do you think I'm full of crap? Do you think we're on the right path? Please like and subscribe to the channel. Share this video all across the multiverse. And check out some of our other content over here. We got tons of things to sink your teeth into, including a definitive explanation of the multiverse using peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Don't think it could get much better than that. And up until now, my theory has not proven incorrect. So watch that. Tell us what you think. And when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later, guys.